Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a first look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Kingambit. Kingambit evolves from Bisharp. Now, unfortunately, there's a pretty hefty evolution requirement of beating 15 Dark or Steel types in raids, so this is not a Pokemon that I recommend getting on day one. You can kind of just have it as your buddy and slowly work at getting those raids done over time. But today, I went out and did a bunch of raids so we can take a look for the very first time at Kingambit in the Ultra League. This is a Dark and Steel type Pokemon, and for the moveset, it has Snarl, Foul Play, and Focus Blast. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a bit of a tough start in game number 1, leading Golisopod into XL Tinkaton. Tinkaton is even bulkier in the Ultra League. Aqua Jet going to do absolutely nothing. Opponent now going to pivot into their own Golisopod. I bank energy, so at the very least I have a move for later, and now in comes Shadow Drapion. Drapion will be able to survive 2 Aqua Jets plus quite a few Shadow Claws. If my opponent wants to, they will have an eventual ability to farm down. This is going to be really close. I think I can hang on. So I no shield, and I just survive Shadow Drapion so clutch, making one final crunch and dealing devastating damage to my opponent. I'm going to bring in my own Golisopod. Unfortunately, I do get one turn bring in there, so I do miss a Shadow Claw. Opponent will go for the X-Scissor. I need this farm down here, and Golisopod gets it. I exit with so much energy. In the back is Galarian Moltres, and this is going to be a tough game to win. Now it's time. In comes Kingambit, and why did they make it so tiny? Kingambit is supposed to be a pretty imposing Pokemon, and I don't know if they accidentally messed up and gave it Pawniard size stats, but Kingambit is hilariously small in battle. Back to the battle though, this is a true 50-50. I decide to go for the bait, and it pays off. I get the shield. My opponent going to be able to force my final shield with another heavy slam, and I will look to overfarm and go for the Focus Blast. There's the switch into Galarian Moltres, but I needed this move to land on the Moltres anyway. Focus Blast connects. That's going to set up a Snarl farm down for Kingambit, and it looks like we're going to take the game 1 win. Foul Play not going to do much to Tinkaton, but all I needed to do is put it into Aqua Jet range. In comes Golisopod. The Aqua Jet we stored from earlier knocks out the Tinkaton, and that's a good game. We move into the next match, picking up a very nice lead Golisopod into Malamar. Here, I am going to overfarm by 1 and fire off the X-Scissor. X-Scissor will, of course, hit for double super effective damage. It looks like the opponent actually played to a CMP tie there. It looked like they started a bit at the start, so they may not have intended to do so. I'm going to let the first go, going for the Aqua Jet, watching for a catch, and we do see a catch onto Tinkaton. This is a pretty massive problem. I don't have a response to Tinkaton in my backline. I'm going to bank energy and send in the Shadow Drapion, but this is by no means a good matchup. If you thought this matchup was bad in the Great League, it only gets worse in the Ultra League. My opponent did go for the Play Rough though, so that makes me think that they are potentially Play Rough Heavy Slam once again. Aqua Tail is going to land. I am going to win the CMP tie and go for an undercharge, as I would like to set up a Snarl farm down, as Play Rough will be enough to knock me out, but that's very, very okay. Opponent, oh, they are actually on Bulldoze. They get a debuff. There's a switch to Lapras. I'm slow with the counter switch, and I send out Kingambit. Kingambit is, of course, heavily resisting the Psy Waves. They're going to go for the Sparkling Aria, and it looks like I can survive too. I'm farming up. Unfortunately, I overfarmed just a little bit too much, and I'm forced to burn a shield. And now, I'm just going to undertap the Focus Blast. It's a tough call for my opponent. A 50-50 Focus Blast is going to land. We're trying for the Snarl down, and we get the Snarl down of the Lapras. So now we do exit with some energy here as well. Opponent going to send in the Malamar. They try for a catch attempt on a Tinkaton, but it's actually me who gets the catch. They bring in the Tinkaton, hoping to land the Bulldoze, but I catch it onto Golisopod, get the farm down, and I exit with the X-Scissor. We do see the Psy Wave go through, but it was not enough to knock out. I do have a Focus Blast loaded on Kingambit, but in this moment, I wasn't quite sure what would do more, 2 Foul Plays or 1 Focus Blast. I think I should have just gone for the Focus Blast here. I shield up as they're going for the Foul Play because they don't want to debuff themselves. I'm going for the double Foul Play, but then I realize this is not going to be enough to knock out here. It is going to be pretty close. I'm going to farm up, switch into the Shadow Drapion, and my opponent does end up firing off energy. It's the superpower that we catch. Kingambit snarls down, and we escape that game with a very narrow win. We move to the next match, leading Golisopod into Cobalion. Cobalion is a pretty big Corebreaker for this team, as it does a great job at shutting down Drapion. It would completely obliterate Kingambit, and it has Stone Edge for Golisopod. There, my opponent waited a turn to make sure I didn't catch, so that's why I did get an extra Shadow Claw through. I am now going to be firing off another Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet is going to land, getting Cobalion low. Cobalion is going to switch into Golisopod. I'm able to bank a move for later and send out the Shadow Drapion. Drapion, more than happy to absorb Aqua Jets in this matchup, and I'm hoping that the move that I have banked on Golisopod could potentially be a game changer in the endgame. Crunch into Golisopod is going to actually connect and get a defense drop as well. So now my opponent is rapidly losing health from these poison stings, and they're unable to get that farm down. I'm able to get to a crunch, and this crunch is going to force a shield for my opponent, and we actually get a second debuff, so we get quite lucky. In comes Kingambit. They're going to be firing off the Aqua Jet, and I'm more than happy to let this through. The Aqua Jet is going to land. In the back is Shadow Dust Noir. And this is honestly pretty okay for me here as Kingambit. I am going to be firing off the Foul Play. Foul Play is going to be shielded, and it does end up being a CMP tie. I'm pretty low, so I basically just have to shield everything here as I continue the farm, and I will be firing off another Foul Play. Foul Play into Dust Noir. Big damage, but Dust Noir hangs on. And now, this is a very tough spot in the match. I decide to switch into Golisopod, predicting the snipe, and there is the Cobalion. I'm able to fire off Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet is going to pick up the knockout, but I still don't think this is going to be enough. Their Golisopod has a health advantage here. They're going to get 3 Shadow Claws, just 1 Snarl KO. It does not, and by the narrowest of margins, we're going to lose this game. Kingambit almost with the clutch, but it was not meant to be. Another Malamar lead. This is pretty nice for Golisopod. We're very happy to see this lead, and we're pretty strong against Malamar across the board. Here, my opponent makes a beautiful catch onto Jellicent, but I have something for Jellicent. I'm going to stay in here with the Golisopod, farming up a ton of energy. When they throw the Shadow Ball, we're getting the catch and sneak onto Kingambit. Kingambit does catch that Shadow Ball where it's heavily resisted, and now this Jellicent is in extreme amounts of trouble. Jellicent is going to be firing off the Surf. Kingambit very comfortable with this damage. Gonna farm up and now unleash the Foul Play to pick up the KO. The opponent did bank a lot of energy on that Malamar. Malamar is going to be brought back in, and they will throw before I get the Focus Blast. That is very well timed from them. I'm going to commit the shield, however, bank 2 Foul Plays, and snipe with the X-Scissor. They still have 2 shields, but this guarantees that I get my shield back, and now, whether I need dark damage or fighting damage in the back, I have a ton of energy on Kingambit. They're going to go for the Foul Play. I overfarmed to watch for a catch, but it looks like they're just going to go for a double shield farm down. So X-Scissor is going to grab the final shield. They will get a full farm down, and now in comes Drapion. In the back, oh no, it's a Golurk, but it's a Golurk without shields. Golurk absolutely needs shields. Crunch picks up the KO, and now in comes Malamar, and it's Focus Blast time. Last game I went double Foul Play, it didn't knock out. Focus Blast does pick up the knockout, and we're able to take the win. Bit of a tricky lead here, leading Golisopod into Guzzlord. Although, overall, considering my backline, I'm pretty happy to see this here. Even though Shadow Claw is heavily resisted, I'm able to outpace. X-Scissor hits for super effective damage, so honestly, not as tricky as I may have initially thought. Guzzlord is going to strike in retaliation, going for the Dragon Claw, and the fact that that wasn't a harder hitting crunch or something like that is very nice, because they still have quite a bit of health remaining. They actually decide to play the zeros. They're just going to get KO'd. In comes for Alligator, and I'm going to pivot out. I need to check for any kind of a ground type or a fighter that would be a problem for Kingambit. So I'm able to absorb that Hydro Cannon just fine, and now I get to start chipping away with crunches. Crunch is going to be shielded. We do see a crunch drop, so some pretty nice RNG here, as I think I got 2 crunch debuffs in a previous game, and now we get a 3rd here. I'll look to overfarm, fire off the crunch. This, with the debuff, should be just picking up the knockout if they let it go. They do let it go, and in the back is Skeledirge. A fire type, not what Kingambit is hoping to see, but since I can make the crunch and deal huge damage, suddenly Kingambit is actually pretty fine. They are going to go for the Torch Song, ramping up their attack. These Snarls are slowly chipping away at the little HP that they have remaining. From here, I have a guaranteed win condition, and that is switching into the Golisopod. If I catch, I win, and if I don't catch, then I can just Shadow Claw down. So either way, we were just in a really good spot. Bit of an uncomfortable lead in the next match, Golisopod into Virizion. This is definitely where I want to see Virizion, but Virizion is just so neutrally bulky that X-Scissor isn't particularly threatening. They're going to go for the Leaf Blade. They switch out, sending in Drapion. Drapion will immediately be chipped with the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet's going to land, and now I can send in my own Drapion. Here, very comfortable absorbing multiple charge attacks. Opponent goes for a Crunch, which is pretty surprising, but they do actually get a defense drop from that. So the fact that they're crunching in the mirror makes me think they're Crunch Sludge Bomb. And since I have Aqua Tail, even though I'm down energy, I can still outpace, win charge attack priority, and deny that second Crunch. In comes Virizion. Virizion overfarming quite a bit, knowing that my energy is walled, but I will absolutely still take the free extra damage that I get here with the Poison Stings and the Crunch that lands. So now my opponent, they're at back-to-back. They're going to go for the Sacred Sword and pick up the knockout. In comes Golisopod. In the back is a Shadow Steelix. And now I get to send in Kingambit. Steelix has farmed up so much energy. This is a tough call to make. I'm going to commit the shield. It's a breaking swipe, and they actually get the drop. That is very unfortunate. Kingambit needs all the attack it can get. The foul play bait is successful, and they're going to be going now for breaking swipe number 2. This breaking swipe is going to connect. This time, no debuff. I'm going to overfarm to the max and then fire off Focus Blast. I know this is debuff, but I need it to knock out, and the attack drop saves them. In comes Virizion, but Virizion is going to be able to farm up to the back-to-back moves. And that is a huge problem for me, as I'm forced to let one go because they're at the back-to-back, and they're actually going to be able to double kick me down. If I had a move available on Kingambit, I could win the game, but I was short. The double kick lands, and I think I'm too low. The Steelix is low, but Snarl just does no damage. In comes the Steelix, and they will get the Thunderfang down. We see a great lead in the next match, Golisopod into Talonflame. Golisopod has a big pacing advantage in this matchup, so since they stay in, I'm more than happy to strike first here and unleash Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet into the Talonflame is going to be shielded. It just does way too much damage. Even against a bulky Pokemon like Talonflame, they are forced to commit an early shield. I'm going to shield right back as they go for the fly. In comes Lapras, and now Kingambit gets to hit the field. Kingambit, I'm going to try playing out the Zero Shield here, because it looks like I can survive 2 Sparkling Arias. Not super well, but I can survive it, so now it's once again Focus Blast time. Focus Blast, big damage, Lapras barely able to hang on, and Lapras is going to be firing off another Sparkling Aria. Can I get a Snarl down here with Kingambit? I'm going to try for it, but the greed does not pay off. I could have thrown the foul play, but honestly, this might end up working just a little bit better, purely based off the fact that now the Talonflame won't get a bunch of farm. In the back is Guzzlord. Guzzlord, really not what I was hoping to see here, but I do have some energy on Golisopod, so as long as Golisopod still has the shield, I think I can still win this game. No Crunch debuff here. I'm pretty sure I used up all my Crunch debuff luck in the previous games. I'm going to go for another Crunch, and this one, again, will not be enough to pick up the knockout. Guzzlord is going to be firing off the Dragon Claw. That's not going to KO. They're forced to throw another move as I was one off of the Crunch. This is going to pick up the knockout, and now I get to send in Golisopod. Golisopod does actually get the one-turn bring in, but thankfully my opponent does not catch. Oh my goodness. That would have lost me the game if they took advantage of that one-turn bring-in and caught, but thankfully they did not, and now Golisopod for me is just winning, because I can throw 2 in the move, and 2 in the move. The amount of residual energy just perfect on that Golisopod. Down goes Talonflame, and that will be a win. Hopping into the final match, one final Malamar lead for the road. Opponent gonna switch out into Shadow Blastoise. Shadow Blastoise, I don't have a great response available to it, so I'm going to chip it here with an X-Scissor. Blastoise will be able to outpace here and make it to the Skull Bash. I switch into Kingambit. Please, please tell me it's the Skull Bash catch. Yes, it is. We catch the Skull Bash. But now the scary thing is this Blastoise, its defense is boosted, and I haven't run a lot of Kingambit, so I don't know if I trust Foul Play to knock out. So I actually throw 3 in the move here, CMP tying, hoping that with a little bit of extra Snarl damage, Foul Play will KO. But what that does allow them to do is do what they just did here, which is shield, because they know that they can guarantee my final shield with a Hydro Cannon. I build up to the back-to-back, and that's a really nice catch. They're able to catch onto Golisopod. Golisopod able to absorb that Foul Play, no problem, but on Kingambit, I'm just going to rebank the energy, so I have 2 Foul Plays or a Focus Blast, and then I get to send out Shadow Drapion. Opponent does end up throwing the X's there, so it looks like they clicked the wrong move, as Aqua Jet is going to be the move that you do want to go for in these matchups. Crunch lands, but it's not enough. Golisopod barely hanging on, able to make one final move, and it is going to be the Aqua Jet. I do have a little bit of HP remaining. In comes the Malamar, and that actually makes a difference in this game. The fact that they accidentally threw the X-Scissor. Because I get to a crunch, I aggressively pivot into Kingambit, and I'm going straight for the Focus Blast. Call a bait, I dare you, but they don't. They will end up committing the shield. In comes the Blastoise. Blastoise will be able to pick up the knockout, but I should be able to knock out in 5 Shadow Claws here. But I get 1 turn bring in, and that lets them get a move. Oh my goodness. Oh no, please don't be the Skull Bash. It's not the Skull Bash, and we're gonna take this win with Golisopod. I had lost count, so I was so scared that that 1 turn was gonna cost me, but luckily it did not, and we're able to take the win. All in all, Kingambit, it's an incredibly cool Pokemon. I think that the current evolution requirement is absolute nonsense. I get that they're trying to add new and interesting ways to evolve Pokemon, but this honestly feels very grindy. It doesn't really feel like a cool thing you can do, like getting buddy hearts with a Pokemon, exploring a certain amount of kilometers with a Pokemon. It just really feels like they just want people to do a bunch of raids, and that's never a great feeling. When it comes to Kingambit itself as a Pokemon, I think there is definite potential here. It does get up to, I think, 4,000 combat power in the Master League, so it could potentially be interesting there. I think the big thing that it's going to need is just a tweak to its current moveset. Snarl is pretty mediocre across the board, and in the main series, it learns Sucker Punch. Now, Sucker Punch would actually be incredibly cool on Kingambit, as Sucker Punch would allow it a lot more versatility. It wouldn't be stuck in those endgame situations that we saw a few times, desperately trying to snarl things down and not being able to, but instead it would have a lot of fast move pressure, and it would feel like a lot more dynamic of a Pokemon, as usually the shorter turn duration, the more flexibility that a Pokemon is going to feel when you're playing it. So I would love any future move update for it to get Sucker Punch, and I also know it does have the signature move. I believe it's Kowtow Cleave, which would also be a cool addition, because considering how they added Annihilate, and then they had an Annihilate Calm Day, I definitely wouldn't be surprised in the future if we got a Kingambit Calm Day with it getting Kowtow Cleave. But in the interim, even before that happens, I would just love to see it get Sucker Punch, because currently I would describe it as okay. It is a Pokemon that if you support it well, you can get wins with, but it's never typically going to be sweeping games on its own. It's going to need strong meta Pokemon to support it, but if it got Sucker Punch, then suddenly that opens a lot of doors, and Kingambit could actually get very, very scary. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.